Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
I was just teasing you, but
Oh, you're staying
yeah,
silent
but
on
very
purpose.
amused. I can't quite get it right the way you did it. Wonderful,
Oh,
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good
no, it's
morning,
okay. I've got
good
my
morning, good
allergies
morning,
are
good morning.
my
What's
allergies are
that?
pretty rough today. So no, the clearing my throat is because my allergies are bad today.
Ah,
Yeah,
ah,
we've got it's that time of year here, and the pollen count is like way up high, and so it just gets to me.
interesting,
Yeah,
interesting.
all right, it's part of life. You just roll
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens. It happens. Okay. What can we?
Okay,
What can?
hold on a
How are you?
second.
Otherwise, sure. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to. I wish that would. When you get on Zoom, you tell your phone do not disturb, but then it turns off the volume. So
Yeah,
phone calls still
yeah,
try to come in. And now that at least they fixed it where it doesn't mute the. Remember how it used to kick off the entire volume of the body of the video
yeah,
before?
yeah,
So
yeah,
they fixed that. Now it's like make it so that it doesn't interrupt.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I think you got to put on like. I never use that mode because I don't get much traffic from the phone. So.
Oh, these are spam calls, sales
Ah,
calls
right,
and stuff like
right,
that.
right.
Like I'm stuff I'm not interested in, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah,
So otherwise, yes, I'm fine. I I'm really still just going over and over and over in my head. And what that post was that I don't know if yeah, you did read it, I think. Maybe you didn't, I don't know. But I did a takeaway on the question of well, the statement where you said CJ is in my life for a benefit. And we did this
yes,
last
yes.
week.
Oh, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. It's a gift. It's
So
a gift for you. Yeah, yeah. Not a
yeah.
benefit. Gift.
And I posted that. I wrote clear,
Yeah,
and so far it's receiving really interesting. Um, I guess not even so much feedback as it is people are just like, wow, I never really looked at it this way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm hoping that whoever does read it can, I guess, can take away from it what they need.
Yeah.
Um, but I really sat with that statement for a couple of days, and then it just kind of came to me, and I don't remember in particular what, um, unless it was just part of his ups and downs. And the question to me to myself, I finally asked was, am I really prepared for this? Did I bite off more than I can chew here?
Oh,
Um,
oh no, 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 no.
I mean, because it's a lot. It is. I'll admit it's a lot. It's
Uh,
not like, I'm 30 something and raising a kid. No, this is a lot different. So I have to pay attention to everything.
yeah,
Um, especially my health. Especially
yeah,
my health.
yeah,
Uh, my health goes south, and it's like, who's going to be there to take care of him?
yeah.
So it's important that I stay on top of this. And
Yes, yes. Yeah.
so then let me see, that's the wrong one. So, um,
The gift of it. It
yeah,
forces
well,
in inverted commas.
yeah, there was even more than, to be honest, when I got to looking at it, there was even more than just, yes, him being here was a gift, but there was a whole bunch to unpack with that gift. It was like
Yeah,
opening up a box and there's all these other little surprises inside.
yeah,
Um, like the wake up call of all the things that I'm now going to be responsible for myself, and for
exactly,
CJ instead of doing it as a team.
exactly.
Okay, now it's one man show here. Um, and then the idea that I was thinking that my trauma was all about me, and it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Wasn't. And probably it never was about me. I made it to mean a lot about me, and that I'm sure comes from ego and victim
right,
thinking.
right.
Um, but to get to that recognition and understanding that in the end, it really does come down to just a specific awareness that what I went through, of course there was a reason for it, but that reason wasn't just to help me grow. It was to help CJ, myself, others around me, others who I know, my ability to share, my voice to share this information out to people, what they can change.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes. In
I
other words,
really,
it's all about bringing you into awareness.
yeah,
Yes. So it depends how you look at it. So in one way, it's about others, but being about others is about you.
okay. How so?
All right. So if you are going to be your best for others, you have to be your best first,
Okay, okay,
right? So in order to take care of CJ, you have to be at your best. So it's about you.
okay. All right, hold on, I
It
gotta
all
write
it
that down.
all depends on how you look at it. But at the end of the day, the universe is making sure that you get to be your best.
Okay,
And to be your best, it's using and leveraging others, like in this case, CJ.
so that's where
That's why I
okay,
said
that makes sense.
CJ's a gift
Because it
for
was feeling like,
you. I didn't.
yes, it was my choice, but then in the end, if anybody who knows me, the choice would have been obvious anyway. So I never would have said no. I
Right, right, right.
I just
But
wouldn't
but
have.
I'm
Somebody
just
else
saying,
might have, but
yeah, yeah. So when you look at CJ, if you look at your life from the universe's point of view and say, you know what, yeah, we've got Sher, and Sher is an intent to learn and grow and improve and be aware and be more and acquire independence of being, etc., etc. And say, well, what can we do to leverage this, to put some pressure on it, to squeeze, to kind of push her a little bit, uh, to get her a little bit, out of maybe habits and ruts and a bit energized and motivated. Well, perfect. Here we go. CJ. Now, when you look at CJ, right, and you look at it in its entirety, in that big overview, well, take your health. You may not have been that motivated to take care of your health. Well, if I die, so what? It's just me. It doesn't
yes,
matter. See? So stuff like that. Also, you get a redo. You get the redo of your children.
yeah,
That
yes,
is a
I did
profound gift,
recognize
and it's
that.
all about you. So when I said CJ is a gift, I meant it. It's about you, not you for CJ. No, CJ
Yes,
for you.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, no, and that part I took because
Okay.
what also helped looking at this was, I know that there are times when, and and I don't act on it, but I there are times so when I am reminded through him, I'm reminded about not quite meeting my goals as a mom when I was raising my kids.
Correct.
I just
Correct.
always felt like
Correct.
I could have done better.
Yeah.
And
And you
so
could
then
have.
looking at him,
No question about it. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then looking at him, I see there's generational trauma, there's, his mom, there's all of this stuff. And it's like, now wait a minute. I need to find a different approach here. I need to find a different way of looking at this because it's got to come through, somehow or another, it probably does come through to him. So, and that's not in an abusive way, but I'm saying he probably picks it up
Yeah.
that that there's sadness there, that there's some regrets, that there's some remorse there.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right. Okay. So we have
so
to understand one thing. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so when I, taking that into account also in, dissecting and processing all of this,
Yeah.
um, okay, I know I wrote that down there. It was really important. Um, do. Well, okay. My understanding of that situation, that he was actually, the way I see it, I looked at it as though he is a reward to me for my efforts. Basically, I was self-abandoning, but then every
Yeah.
time I look at him, I have no reason to self-abandon. He is my reason to keep going. And then it helps me feel more motivated about, well, okay, I've got this huge responsibility, and it's not just to him, but if I'm not responsible for me, then that's going to harm him.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's a gift to you.
Yeah.
Also, you may or may not have done your best with your children. Let's assume you did your best at the time. Yeah. All right. You
Yes.
may have been indulgent. You may have been self-absorbed. There's many reasons why you may not have done your best. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let's just assume for purposes of the point that you did actually do your best. Was your best enough? No, clearly not.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Mm-mm.
And this is what we forget. We may do our best, but our best is very often not even close to enough. Why? Because we're ignorant and unaware.
Right.
It's not because we don't care, we're not trying. That's a different issue. But we can have all of the best of intent, make the best of it efforts, be scrupulous, thorough, diligent, and still come up way short.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is because we just don't know. Right. And considering, your childhood and early adulthood, including the time when you had your children, it's like, man, the odds were certainly against you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but the end result, of course, is CJ
Yes.
or them. Yeah,
I
yeah,
liked the questions that I came up with for myself, the what's next. And I remembered that from our sessions, just looking at what's next. Oh, okay. I've got this awareness, this understanding. Well, what am I going to do with it? So then I asked myself, am I prepared to maintain this level of awareness of all of the unique and common challenges, um, you know, in all the core areas of life? Am I prepared to meet the challenges of raising a child alone at my age? And that was a key question right there of, at my age. Do I have the
exactly,
tools and abilities to see this through to the end? Yep, that was a great big yes there. And
exactly.
is this all there is? And I thought, oh, that's a self-indulgent question. But I
Yeah,
put it in there because it came up
yeah,
and I didn't want to avoid it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
felt like that was an important one to answer, because that to me went back to that no victim thinking, feeling sorry for myself, that, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to do this alone. And so I really wanted to make sure that I thought that through and addressed it. Um, So I kept coming back to the one simple answer, which is, if I don't understand the source, if I don't understand any of that past or that history or that background, I'm not
Right,
going to come to my resolution. I'm not
right,
going to find my answers. So I kept
right,
pushing with that.
right.
Um, and then what you said on Friday really resonated with me about, it's not about fixing a problem, it's about seeking to understand. And then I took
Exactly,
that further.
exactly. And
It's not
finding the
only
replacement.
understanding,
Right.
but it's to understand and share what I have
Yeah, yeah,
acknowledged, accepted, and applied.
yeah, yeah.
Then I find my resolution. 'Cause
Exactly,
I can
exactly.
understand it all I want until the cows come home. But
Yeah,
until I actually share it and do something about it, it's not
yeah,
nothing's gonna
yeah,
happen.
yeah, yeah. So the
So
the problem is typically a belief.
yes,
Almost always some, but it's not about eliminating that belief, because then you end up with zero.
yeah, yeah,
Debt. You replace the debt. Oh, I'm in debt. I need to fix my debt. Okay, somebody comes and they pays off all your debts. Well, you still don't have income. You're just going to get
right.
in debt again.
Yes,
So unless you replace debt with income, you're not going to get out of debt, right? You're not going to solve your problem. So
right,
this is the same way with stuff that we need to resolve within ourselves. We need to find the inappropriate belief, but we don't even need to do that. All we need to do is replace or connect to and engage in and emphasize and make the appropriate beliefs our habit. And this will
right.
automatically eliminate the ones we don't want. It
Yes.
happens automatically. Yeah. So
Now,
that's
as
that's a very, very key deal. All right. Talking about CJ,
uh-huh,
uh, I feel, we spoke about responsibility and he wrote out on responsibility.
yes,
So I feel that to ask him to write down what to him is important in his daily life, right? And what we are getting at here is his belief in the superiority paradigm.
Okay.
In other words, the belief in attention, belief in looking good, belief in others thinking you're wonderful and all this. Yes.
Okay.
And to write out this, and then to write out, okay, how does this work, to take it further, right? To get to that
Okay.
understanding that he's going to realize at some point that, wow, if I succeed in what I want, I make myself vulnerable and dependent.
Okay.
Right? So it's a no-win strategy. Whereas if you pursue independence of being, and you don't care about what other people think, they are going to end up respecting you and admiring you and approving of you. It's one of those peculiar conundrums that to get what you want, you have to not care about it. So I'm also using a bit of cunning, deep cunning there,
Yes.
because the ego says, oh, I can get it by doing this. In other words, if you want to be
Uh-huh.
cool, don't care about being cool. Then you'll actually be
Yeah.
cool. So we leverage the ego to stop caring and to get what it wants by not wanting what it wants. It's a roundabout way, but it's very effective, because it's very
Okay.
hard to switch off the ego. You know, the ego is
Yes.
hardwired. So basically, you give the ego something to grab onto, and in the meantime, you focus on your own stuff, your independence of being, and you don't care. And this is some fantastic freedom, right? Because if
Yes.
you ask CJ also, what is he when he's at school? What is he thinking about? All of his energy is going to, am I looking cool? Am I looking good? Am I looking foolish? Am I looking stupid? And that's it. That's his whole day. That's all he's
Uh-huh.
thinking about. Like,
Yep.
man, oh man, that's a lot of
Yep.
energy to put to stuff that's going nowhere, right?
Yes. Yes. It
So
is.
again,
Uh,
he's doing it because he believes this is what he should be doing, because this is what
yes.
society, every single thing tells you this is what you should be doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Everything
you
that
can
he
ask
that,
about should, you know. So,
I'll tell you what, that is this weekend was unnecessarily a roller coaster, but I didn't engage. I did what we talked about. I just didn't engage. I gave that long pause, and what I said was, "Huh, that was an interesting display, but okay." You know, he I don't exactly remember what it was. I know Friday night he came to me last minute and said, "Hey, can I go spend the night with my friends? They were having a sleepover." Okay, but my dislike about these last minute things, because that's disruptive to my choices. So I take him and then I pick him up the next day on Saturday, and then he had a birthday party to go to for his cousin, like within an hour after I picked him up. So we go to do that. I told him, if we're gonna do all this, I need you to understand that if you're tired, you're going to bed early. Oh, he didn't believe me. He did not believe me. He got mouthy with me instead after the birthday party, got just belligerent for no
yeah,
particular reason other than he was tired and not making, you know,
yeah,
um, not making appropriate choices.
right.
So I just said, I think at this point you need to shower and just go to bed. And it was like 7 o'clock. He's like, it's 7 o'clock at night. I'm not gonna. Yes, you are. Because, I'm not going to engage with this. This is just ridiculous behavior. No, sorry. Um, you can choose to act that way, but I don't have to choose to listen to it. So up you go. He went
Uh,
up. He went up. He did what he
and
needed to
again,
do.
that's a good example of the world doesn't work the way we think it does. Just because it's 7 o'clock, so what? If your body
Yeah,
needs it, it needs it.
yeah,
When there's no rules. This is nonsense. You've got to go by what's appropriate,
yeah.
and forget about supposed to be. And that's the biggest freedom, is to unhook from supposed to be and should.
Yes, yes. I am pretty
They
certain that's where I'm
completely
going to
limit
keep
us.
focusing on is where are you getting these ideas? Who's
Right,
feeding this to you that this is the way it's
right,
supposed to be?
right. I mean, your
So
body
he
says you're
slept.
tired. End of story. Right.
Yeah, he
And
slept
also,
from
yeah,
probably 8 o'clock
yeah.
until probably it was about 10 o'clock the next morning on Sunday. Yeah, and then yesterday he was right as rain.
There
He had
you
a
go.
decent
So,
attitude.
explain to him that his body is growing disproportionately. And for
Yeah,
that, you need extra sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Um,
also, sometimes, all right. So, think of your body like a castle. Yeah. Now,
yeah.
When you're sick, that's when the invaders have actually, scaled your walls and broken down your gates, and they're inside the castle. That's when you're sick. Yeah. So how do you prevent being sick? Well, you got to defend your walls and your gates, right? You got to be
Yes.
shooting at the invaders with the arrows and pouring boiling oil on them, etc. Now, in order to do that, that takes energy, no?
Yeah.
So the body, when it gets attacked, and especially if it sees the attack coming, it needs that energy to deal with it. So that is when you are tired, and you shouldn't be tired. If you pay attention and actually go and rest and give your body a chance to deal with the attackers before they scale the walls and break down your gates, right? Then you don't get sick. But that only happens if you listen to your body and you unreasonably rest, right? Because, well, I
Oh,
feel fine. I feel fine. I'm fine. I'm not sick. But what do I need to go sleep for? Oh, because your body wants that time to deal preemptively with you getting sick.
okay.
I've really,
I
really,
just
I
thought of
studied
something.
this in great detail, and I can, like, I had it just yesterday and day before. I can tell ahead of time when I'm going to potentially get sick, and I've avoided doing this, so I don't get sick anymore because I deal with it preemptively.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
and see, and I can use the example of, he has two games that he really enjoys playing. One is Assassin's Creed, and the other one is Clash of Clans. Um, he and his buddies, they play that one. So I can let him know that, when you protect your castle, when you protect your property and your village, then you're fending off your invasions.
Right,
But
right.
when you're not aware, when you're not thinking of these things, when you're not being preemptive, yeah, that's
Exactly.
when you're going to
Exactly.
get invaded. You're going to get sick. You're going
Exactly.
to
Exactly. Yeah.
all of these things. Yeah.
Now, and
Um,
once the invaders are inside the castle, it's much harder to deal with them
okay,
than it
hold on.
is.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So hold
Yeah.
on a second. Okay. I've got the school calling. I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. What happened,
Hello.
Sher?
Hello, I'm here.
Good
I had
morning.
good morning, Dina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, considering I am doing well.
Ah,
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just gonna have to stand firm and hold my boundaries here. So what
Exactly.
happened is he's sitting right here at the kitchen table. He can hear me, and that's fine. He can hear you guys too.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
As far as I can glean from what I can take away from everything that was shared, when he went to school this morning, he was in a fine mood. There was no problems. I thought, great, we're gonna have a good. No, not so much. Second class, he reacted and took personally a discipline that the teacher had the entire class do, which was they didn't know how to come into the classroom appropriately and were talking and I guess being too boisterous. So she sent everybody out in the hallway, wanted them to write out how they're supposed to enter the class. CJ
Interesting.
did not. CJ did not. He didn't want to, or he said he forgot his pen and paper or something, but he didn't do it. Instead, he was pacing the hall. And one of the teachers asked him, what was going on, and he responded, but he didn't respond appropriately. They do expect, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, that kind of thing here. It's
Right.
manners. He knows this in the dojo. He knows this in school.
Yeah.
He can do it.
Yeah.
He chose not to.
Yeah.
So the teacher asked him a few more questions and it just went from there. Somehow or another, he started getting belligerent and argumentative with another teacher who stepped in to intervene, and he wound up in the principal's office. So she called me, and the level of upset in her voice was the same I have experienced frequently lately.
Wow. From her or from where?
From her. I mean, I could hear it in her voice over the phone. She was that, her annoyance and frustration, Sil, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like trying to talk sense to somebody who wants nothing but nonsense.
Yeah.
That's where it is. So we
So
got the
moral of the
thing.
story is avoid that because that's not the solution.
Right.
It's not a place you want to be. You don't want to be interacting with that.
No.
Yeah. So I have a question for both you and CJ.
Okay.
When it comes to being in authority and implementing discipline, is it your prerogative? Do you have the freedom? Do you have the license? Is it up to you to be irrational sometimes in order to implement the discipline?
Is it
Do
up
you
to me
have
to
that
be
freedom or not?
irrational?
Yeah. Okay. So
I
technically,
don't know.
right. In the case with CJ now,
Okay.
technically, CJ wasn't being boisterous going into the class, but he was part of the group discipline implementation, right? The
Right.
teacher needs discipline in the class, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's her prerogative. She has that freedom, or they have that freedom to be a bit irrational in implementing the discipline. Tough
Yes.
luck if you're getting caught up in it. That's just too bad. They need the
Mhm.
discipline. That's it. You know, if you're in the military, that's the first thing they teach you when it comes to
True.
discipline. There's no logic to it. There's no rationality. When the corporal says do, you do. When the sergeant says do, you do. The lieutenant says do, you do. That's it. You don't ask questions. You have
That's
to
right.
accept, because otherwise, if you start questioning everything, discipline goes through the wall, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
now, of course, we're not in the military. It's an extreme example because you don't always understand the logic of the orders. You have to hope and trust that they're sensible orders. Now, of course, you can disobey a legal order, but an illegal order, that's a different story. But the point is that in order for there to be discipline, you have to accept that the person has got the authority to make you do things that aren't necessarily sensible. That's just the suck part of it, and that's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the more sensible strategy is to go along with it and then question.
Yes.
Then you've got a shot at questioning,
Yes.
right? But if you're going to do this, you're facing a situation where you're confronting the discipline, and there needs to be discipline. If you succeed in what you're doing, you break down the discipline, and the teacher cannot have that. They cannot
Right.
have that. It's a battle you cannot win. It's
Right.
impossible, because then there is no class. It's just going to go crazy, right? And
Exactly.
there'll be no
Exactly.
school. So there has to be some sort of discipline. You may not like it, but that's just the nature of the situation. Now, think if you, the teacher, how
Well,
would you implement discipline? You know, there aren't ideal ways of doing this, because you're dealing with people who are doing things that they shouldn't do in the first place. So
right.
when you're looking to counter people doing things that they can't do, you have to also use things that shouldn't be, right?
Yes.
It's the one thing as a reaction to the other. So
Yes.
understand the bigger picture. I'm talking to CJ now, right? Understand the bigger picture, CJ, that it's a sucky situation and the teacher's in a sucky position, and she's been put in a sucky position by people behaving suckily. So yes, you are caught up in that, but don't make the thing worse, because now you are just forcing them to be even more discipline orientated with you, which is really, in the end of the day, them going to force you to do things you don't want to do. That's it. You know, you're in a situation where discipline is part of the deal. You have to take responsibility for your decision to be in school. That's part of being in school, or
Yeah.
part of having a job, is that you say, I am going to be subject to your discipline, which means that you occasionally get to do things that aren't necessarily rational and logical and sensible. That's part of.
Ironically, would you like to know what the foundation of this is? Should what we were talking about this morning?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when it got right down to it, um, it's part of that whole image thing, like, oh, what was it you had talked about this morning? You were talking about he's listening to he's listening to that
Ah.
paradigm.
Okay, let me tell a story,
Okay.
rather. Right?
Okay.
The story about square circles. So these psychologists set up an experiment. Right now, they in the end of the day, they missed the great value of their own experiment. But I'm going to go through the experiment for you. It was an experiment about post-hypnotic suggestion, but something else came along which they didn't see. But you'll see where I'm going with this. All right. So they said to the people, "We're going to hypnotize you, and then we're going to do this thing with a post-hypnotic." So they hypnotized the people. And under the hypnosis, they hold up a blank sheet of paper. right? Just show the people, here you go, look at this. Here's a picture of a square circle. Remember this, right? But it's a blank piece of paper. The people are under hypnosis. Blank piece of paper, but they tell them, here's a picture of a square circle. Remember this picture, because we're going to take you out of hypnosis and you're going to forget all about this. But at some point, one of the psychologists, Joe over there, is going to touch his nose. And when he touches his nose, you're suddenly going to remember the picture of the square circle. And then you're going to sit down and draw it. And there'll be a handy drawing paper and pencils all over like it was like a cocktail party type of a situation, right? So okay, and so they say, okay, we're taking you out of hypnosis and you're going to forget all about this. And they forget all about this, right? And they go in the cocktail party and they're happily chatting and just doing normal things, right? Nobody remember anything about the square circle. Then of course Joe touches his nose and they notice this, and oh, suddenly then they start looking for the pencil and the paper, and they start trying to draw the square circle, right? So at that point, this is where the lecturer stopped telling the story. And he said, this was quite successful. This is what happened. So the post-hypnotic suggestion, it really can happen, right? This was the proof of the point. Yeah, the people, they didn't remember anything, and then they started to draw. And so, okay, this is it. It can happen. And that was the whole point of the story from his point of view. He said, oh, by the way, what was sort of interesting is that when they started to draw this, they, of course, couldn't draw a square circle, but they kept trying. And they kept trying, and they got really, really upset that they couldn't draw this. And then we had to put them back in hypnosis and, take this idea of the square circle out of their heads. So this is the important point, though, right? That they continued trying to implement a fictional belief, something that couldn't exist, but they believed it to be true. And because they believed it to be true, they never questioned their belief. They kept trying to implement that square circle belief. To me, this was like, it blew my mind for many reasons. It blew my mind that the psychologist didn't see the profoundness of what this were. And this is where this square circle logic that I talk about all the time comes from, right? In other words, people believing things which are self-contradictory. They cannot exist in the idea, right? You can't have a square circle. It's impossible. The thing by definition cannot exist. But this is the incredibleness of the mind. It can believe things can exist that actually cannot exist. And then we can try to actually implement those beliefs. But of course, you cannot succeed. Now, if you get stuck in trying to implement a belief that's impossible, of course, you're going to get very, very frustrated and upset. Yeah. So when we are frustrated and upset and angry, we got to look at what is the belief that we're trying to implement. Is that belief valid? Is that belief legitimate? And the belief in approval, belief in people thinking you wonderful, and the belief of people giving you attention, the belief in superiority, all of those beliefs are square circle beliefs when you think them through to the end, right? Because if you actually get what you want in terms of everybody thinking you're wonderful, getting everybody's approval, getting everybody's attention, your happiness is now dependent on others. This is what you want. This is what you think is cool. Not you, but people in general. But if they actually get what they want, they are actually kind of screwed, because it makes them very dependent on others, which of course makes them vulnerable, because you've given your power away to others. If your happiness comes from others giving you approval and attention, you've given your power away, because if they remove that, and they don't give you approval, if they give you negativity, then you're suddenly unhappy and miserable. So they have charge of your emotional state of being. This is terrible, is it not? It's horrible. Right. Furthermore, how do you guarantee that people are going to like you and approve you? This is almost impossible to do. Take any dictator in the world, right? They're trying to force people to love them and like them and think they're the best and most wonderful. You can never do this. It's an impossibility. Square circle again. You can't force people to approve you. You've got to have it automatically. And the only way you're going to have it is if you are not needy for the approval of others. Again, see the square circleness here? People who are chasing approval, chasing attention, they want something that's not actually possible to get. So the only way to actually get real approval is not to care about approval. Another square circle, but this time a positive square circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
So,
this is a really powerful thing to, when you're frustrated, look at your beliefs, to summarize what I'm saying, right? Like those people trying to draw, and then they got like really super, but I knew it. I knew I saw it, because I think he showed us some of this. I remember them, this saying like, but I saw it. I really, really saw it. And they're trying really hard to draw it. I think they showed us a little clip of the experiment. Anyway, so it's very powerful. So when we get frustrated, stressed, believed, look at the beliefs that are underlying it, right? So a belief in fairness is a very common cause, right? In this case there now. Yeah, but it's not fair. I didn't do anything. Well, part of life is sometimes understanding that unfairness is a part of life. And when it comes to discipline in situations like that, that's just part of the deal, Can't help it.
well, he's also getting mixed up the difference between rights and choices. He doesn't believe that.
Correct.
He's getting that mixed up, rights
Yeah.
versus choices, because he was busy telling the principal, they're violating my rights. I've got all these rights.
Well, you know what, CJ, you want to save yourself a lot of aggravation and stress. Throw out that idea of rights. It's a belief, not a fact.
Right.
It's a belief. It's a belief that you have rights. When you were born, where was this when you came into the world that said you had rights? This is something that people say. The universe doesn't think that you have any rights whatsoever. It doesn't. Anything can happen to you. You could die the very next second. You don't have any. It's a gift that you're alive, not a right. So anytime you accept that and you come into the world knowing that regardless of your rights, people can violate them. So find other ways of dealing with things. This insistence on rights is just going to get you into trouble and stress, and think that you have this, that you're entitled to stuff going your way. Yeah, it leads to a psychology of entitlement. You expect the world to conform to your view of how the world should be. The world is going to do what the world does, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's so or not. No. So you can find better ways of dealing with it, which is to be strategic, to be sensible, to look at it from a bigger perspective. So your insistence on the rights, what did it get you today? Just trouble. I'm not saying that you must go along and conform to when people are being ridiculous and foolish. No, but choose your battles. Choose your battles. Be strategic.
Like you do in your gaming.
Yeah.
You choose your battles in Clash of Clans, don't you?
And in Assassin's Creed.
Okay, you choose your battles, right? You defend yourself, right? Okay. But
well, you got to know when to run away too.
Yes.
And even more so, pay attention to what's going on around you so that you don't get in a fight that you can't win, right?
Well,
that's
it's like
that's the number one rule of self-defense. Don't get into a fight. Number one rule. Whenever you're in a fight, you've already lost. Whenever you're in a fight, you've already lost. As you discovered today.
Yeah, you got insubordinate, didn't you? You got argumentative.
Well, let's assume. Okay, CJ. So let's look at this from a different point of view. Let's go through that scenario and let's assume you get what you want. Yes, which is to resist the discipline and the authority of the teacher. Yeah, and you say, well, I'm not going to do this, and the teacher as well. Okay, CJ. Now, what are the other kids going to do? Well, I don't want to do this either. And the kids who did need to do it, they're also going to say, well, I don't need to listen to you. You see my point, CJ? Now, your act of resistance leads to resistance in the whole class, and there the teacher ends up without discipline. And now what's going to happen to your class? You will have no class. Have you been in classes where the teachers completely lose discipline and the kids completely ignore the teacher? They come in and the teacher says, okay, let's get started. And everyone just ignores them and they just do what they are. There is no class. It ceases to exist. And the teachers just sit there and they don't know what to do. And the kids just do what they want. It happens. It happens. It really, really happens. That's the extreme. But of course, if you start off and you break down discipline, that's where it ends up. Or potentially can end up. It all depends on the nature of the kids, right? But still, some kids will really take advantage, and because of superiority paradigm, if they can dominate the teacher, oh my gosh, this is the biggest wonderful thing ever. They think they're the bomb and they're cool. They don't look at the bigger picture. They just think, oh, we're bullying the teacher. This is cool. Right? So I'm saying if you actually got what you want, you would have gotten consequences that you don't want. Yes? Do you want to be in a class that has no discipline?
He's shaking his head now. Can you please use your words? Okay, use your words. Take your hand away from your mouth, please. It's really kind of hard to hear when you've got your face covered.
Take your time, CJ. Take your time. Take your time. I'm really keen to know. You know, I'm not trying to give you a hard time or anything. I'm really asking a serious question. It may be that you want a class with no discipline. That would be ideal, but that would also mean you'd want to be in a class with students that are practicing impeccability. Then you don't need discipline. Yes, that would be ideal. So, you know, there's not a yes or a no, not a right or wrong here. It depends on the entire circumstance. Yes.
Okay, speak up.
Yeah.
No, I can't fix that, okay? So that means you need to speak up.
Yeah,
Kind of
give
an
it some.
example of what we were just talking about, right? What are your choices here? Not
Take
be
your
heard.
time. CJ, take your time.
Yeah, not be heard. Well, the mower, he was complaining that the mower was loud outside. It's like, well, then speak up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you do me a favor? Okay, here's some questions that I was gonna have him answer today. Because I'm sorry, he's not gonna get the privilege of playing on electronics today. It's just not gonna happen. So, yeah, because he got sent home from school because of his behavior. So what I wanted him to do was do some journaling today. One of the questions I was gonna have him answer is, you know, what is he, of course, what are his benefits? What does he have? Basically, you know, to be happy about. Because
Yeah.
right now he's feeling really miserable that he doesn't have anything, that he doesn't have choices. He thinks he doesn't have rights. He's always being told what to do. No, he makes a lot of his own choices. So we're right back to that again, feeling like he doesn't have choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. I was going to have him journal out about that, as well as the question of what are his gains? What has he gained? Or what does he gain? Or what? And then another one was, what does he give back? What does he give back?
Yeah. And also I would say, write out what life would be like if you actually do not have any rights. How would you live then? One thing I can tell you now already is if that you live life under this understanding that you don't have any rights, you end up in a much healthier, much more strategic, much more sensible life, because you take responsibility for what happens to you. You don't blame it on everything else. And that gives you true power, true ability to deal with stuff. You're not dependent on people respecting your rights. No, you find ways to live and be happy and be complete and be content. Whether or not people acknowledge whatever rights there are or not doesn't matter. Right? That insistence on right is just an excuse for us not to live according to our own sensibility and our own integrity and our own discipline. That's the key. It's internal that matters. So try that. Write out what life would be like if you didn't have any rights.
I like that question. I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Wrote that down. I really like I think it's important though too for him to revisit his values and his beliefs. You know, why does he believe that he has the right to not listen to a teacher? Okay, he has that right. He has that choice. Not right. He has that choice.
Exactly. It's all
But there's a
about choice.
consequence.
Right. Exactly. It's
Right.
all about
But there's
choice.
a consequence.
Yeah. I
And
mean, we
today
have
there's
there's such
consequence.
things as right. You know, people legal rights. Yes, you've got this imposed, but from the universe's point of view, it's a very different perspective, and we mustn't get confused in this stuff, right? And you know, when you start to get hung up on your rights, then you just start fighting the world. Let's put it that way. That's typically the consequence. Yes, rather than saying the world is the way it is, it's up to me to make the best of it and deal with it appropriately, sensibly, strategically, right? So when you think of your behavior today, was it strategic? If you'd actually succeeded in what you wanted to do, like I said, you know, if the teacher said, okay, CJ, you can ignore the discipline, or just said, okay, well, that doesn't apply to you, whatever. If you succeeded, what would have been the consequences? Think of the entire situation from point of view of, all right, let me ask you this question. Let's stop right there and say, all right, CJ, think of that entire incident And instead of you being the pupil, the student, you now be the teacher as well, right? And you look at the entire class, the entire situation from the teacher's point of view and write out how you would have dealt with it. How you would have dealt with CJ and with the other children.
I like that. Okay.
Now, you can write it from 2 points of view from the teacher. You can write it from inside that teacher's head and inside their psychology, and you can write it from inside, a sensible teacher, like Clara or somebody like that, an ideal teacher. Fine. Either way, you can write it even a third way from CJ as the teacher, right? And understand their different perspectives, different logics, and different contexts that apply, right? So write it from within all of those different perspectives. It's going to broaden your view because you got stuck into a bubble, and that bubble was just a small bubble inside a bigger bubble. Yes? And the end result was, well, duh. I mean, if you'd thought about it a little bit, where did you think this thing was going to end up, other than in the principal's office? Yeah. See, that's the problem, CJ. You ended up in trouble because you didn't think a little further ahead, right? You got caught up in a bubble, and that bubble was a belief. That's what I was saying earlier. See, with the square circle stuff, we believe in stuff that doesn't really work, but we believe it should be so, and then we end up trying to insist that it's so, like those people who were insisting, yes, but I saw it, I know it, and they got really upset because they were trying to implement something that doesn't actually exist. They just believed it does. Yeah, make sense, CJ? So, but the point of writing it down is to give you that view of it outside of your head, because inside of our heads, we have, I call them shadow thoughts. They make a lot of sense to us, but the moment they come outside in the sunlight or in any light, they just disappear because they're shadows. Shadows can't exist in light, right? But inside our head, we believe all of this stuff and we get caught up in those bubbles. When you write it out, you actually get to see what's going on inside there. And the act of writing is the act of putting it in the sunlight. So sometimes those thoughts become sensible in the act of writing. They change in the moment you express them, whether you say it or write it. But writing is a little bit slower, and therefore it's a little bit more deliberate, and therefore it's more thoughtful, it's more careful. But your thoughts get cleaned up and get sorted and get sensible in the act of writing them out. This is why it's so powerful. So you get to see where it is that, wow, you know what? I didn't realize that I was being a knucklehead or an nincompoop, right? At the moment, at the time, you believed it made complete sense, but looking at it from the outside, well, not so much really, right? Oh, what was I thinking? Oh, well, I wasn't thinking. I was in a bubble. That's the point of this. It's massively valuable. And when we can learn to see ourselves from outside the bubble, we've got real power, CJ. We've got real power. Think of every single time you ended up in trouble in some way or another. It was not only because other people were being foolish, because they were in bubbles, but likewise, you were also in a bubble because you didn't realize that they were in a bubble, so you didn't use appropriate strategy. Yeah. So the more we do this, the more we expand the bubble of our awareness, the bubble of our understanding, the more we see the bigger picture, and we don't try and deal with things from inside our little bubbles of what we know, right? This is real power. This is real wisdom. This is real sensibility, intelligence, smarts, strategy, right? Expand your bubble. Expand your bubble. Yes, CJ?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. This is real power. Yeah, to expand that bubble. Look at the bigger picture, and then the bigger picture beyond that again. Right? Like in this case, the bigger picture of the teacher needing to implement discipline with kids that aren't disciplined, that aren't sensible, that aren't good kids. You are, but not all of them are. So, yeah. Anyway, lots of stuff to do, man. It's fun stuff to do. It's really fun because you get to know yourself in writing this stuff out. And when we know ourselves, that's where it's really at, right? That's how we avoid problems. That's how we can be happy, by really knowing ourselves, not thinking we know ourselves, but actually knowing ourselves. Thinking we know ourselves, shadow thoughts, writing it out, getting that perspective, that awareness. You learn to actually know yourself. Massive difference, massive difference. Very
I
powerful.
think he's taking this journaling process today as punishment instead of discovery.
No, it's not punishment. No.
No, this is discovery.
No, exactly. CJ, please don't see it as punishment. It's necessary. Do it as for yourself because you want to. Because do you want to sort things out? Do you want to understand? Do you want to make sense of things? Yes, you do. So use this energy now. Use it as a motivation for getting that clarity, for getting that thing sorted out. Yes. Yeah. Understanding. All right.
I
So
think you need
I
to
want
mention
to,
about
yeah.
what you
So
shared about your mom.
say again, Sher. I didn't hear you
Well,
properly.
he keeps getting his mom is supposed to be coming in December,
Yeah.
for a visit here to Texas. She wants to come and spend a week with him.
Yeah.
And, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
They've already got their tickets. So
Yeah.
they're definitely coming. But now he's afraid of her to come and, as he put it, see him for who he really is. And I've tried to
Wow.
explain to him.
Wow.
She already knows who he is.
Wow. Well, all right. If you're afraid somebody sees you for who you really are, then you need to change who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that, CJ. Well, I
And
got
you do
news
that.
for you, CJ. I got news for you, right? The who we really are is always less than who we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just part of life. That's just it. I always want to be more. That's great. But that doesn't mean that what I am is not enough. All right. So CJ, you enjoy your game, right? Which one? Assassin's Creed, whatever you're playing, right? You love your game. You really enjoy it. Yeah. But then they come with an update and they improve the game. Does that make the game that was before the update? Does it make it suck? No, it was wonderful. You enjoyed it. It was fantastic. But then they came and they did an update or an upgrade or a new expansion, and it's even better, right? See my point that I'm saying? Just because things can be improved doesn't mean they aren't wonderful.
You
Did you hear
understand
what I
that?
said, DJ? Just
Yeah.
because things can be
Jesus, Mom.
improved doesn't mean they aren't wonderful. That's opposite thinking. It doesn't make any sense. We have to, because we tend to think in opposites. No, it doesn't work that way, because you can improve and you've got a lot to learn. That doesn't make you a piece of crap. No, of course not. No. The fact that you want to improve means that by definition, if you want to improve, you're not a piece of crap. Very simple. Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you aren't good already. Right. You can be good and also have many things that you still want to and need to learn. That's part of life. That's always going to be the case. Yeah. Always. Every single day I learn, Bina learns, Sher learns, all of us. If you aren't honest about the fact that we need to learn, you aren't going to learn. We need to learn. This is part of life. And there's always more to learn. That's why that expression comes from. There's always more. But just because there's more doesn't mean that what I have isn't enough. It is. It is. You're enough as you are. Does it mean that you can't be more? No, it doesn't. See? It balances out. So enjoy who you are. You are the game you're playing right now. Do you know that game is going to get an update and an upgrade in the future? Yes, it is. But you're not going to sit and wait and say, oh, I'm not going to play this game. This game sucks because it's going to get an upgrade. That's ridiculous, right, CJ?
Yeah.
Right. So enjoy who you are and also enjoy the fact that you're going to be learning. If you start to enjoy learning, well, now, just because you've got something to learn doesn't mean that you foolish or stupid or ignorant. No.
Right.
No. All right. So let me ask you this. Compared to all the knowledge out there in the world, right? Or that's possible in the universe, right? What we know is very little, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Now, though, compared to zero, take everything that you know and compare it to zero. Is it a lot compared to zero?
Yes.
Hey, exactly. So just because you may be, small compared to the universe, doesn't mean that you aren't big compared to zero. See, in other words, I'm trying to say, appreciate yourself for where you are at. Just because you need to learn, we all need to learn. Doesn't mean that you crap. No, compared to the baby that you were, you've learned an incredible amount, right?
Yeah.
CJ?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you still poop in your pants like you did when you were a baby?
No.
Well, there you go. See, you learned, you grow, you change. But when you were a baby, if you could go back in time now and look at yourself as a baby, would you love yourself as a baby? Even though you pooped in your pants?
Yes.
Exactly. So think of your future self looking at CJ now. Would your future self look at CJ now and say, wow, I love CJ now, even though, I know he's got a lot to learn because, well, I'm future self and I've learned a lot since then, but I still love CJ now, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Life is easy, man. It's all in the perspective, right?
Yes.
It's
Check
all
your
in also not making up choices for his mom. He's
Ah,
putting her
exactly.
at a disadvantage by taking the choice away from her to make up her own mind on what she feels and believes about her son.
Right. So I got something for your dictionary of power, CJ. Write this in your dictionary of power. Fear is an idea.
Got it. Do you know what
There's
that
your
means?
meditation for the day. Meditate on that.
Yeah. Fear is an idea.
Right.
Your fear that she's going to not love you. I'm sorry, but I still see this, that you still have it stuck in your head that you're not with her because of who you are. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about what she did. Nothing about who you are or what you did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jay,
Yeah.
you can turn out to be a multi-billionaire entrepreneur in the next 5 years. It's not going to place you back with her. So it doesn't matter who or what you are. A ruling was made and it wasn't against you. That's why you're not with your mom. You know this, but you still got it stuck in your head that it's because of you.
Right. So, yeah, let me ask you this, right? Is lovability, whether or not something is lovable, is that dependent on whether it is being loved or not?
Okay, just ask the question again, Sil.
Lovability. We're looking at something as lovable or
Okay.
not. Do you determine that something is lovable because of how much other people or other things love that something, or is that lovability something that's inherent? Okay, let me put it in an example, right? Babies, most people agree, are inherently lovable. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Baby's just lovable. It is because it's a baby. It's lovable, right? There you go. But people do all sorts of horrible and mean and ridiculous and terrible things to babies. The baby is lovable, but the people are in a messed up state of being, right? So the fact that they don't treat the baby in a loving way has nothing to do with the baby's lovability. It's them that's mad. The two aren't related. The two are not related. Right? You can't determine lovability by how much people react lovingly towards you. No, people behave their ways because of what's going on inside them, not because of what you are or not. They can be, act appropriately or not, right? They have the ability to basically behave inappropriately. So if you're lovable and they don't love you, they're being inappropriate. It's nothing to do with your lovability. That makes sense, CJ?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that's another problem with that belief that we are determined by the opinions of others. It's complete and utter nonsense. Not only is it nonsense, it's very detrimental, it's very disastrous. It really will screw you up completely and utterly to believe that how I am is determined by the opinions and the thoughts and attentions of others. It's complete and utter nonsense and rubbish, right? It's in the case of the baby, right? The people might have, you know what, I can't stand this baby. I don't want a baby in my life. I want to go and do my own stuff. I want to go out and get high or whatever, right? So the baby is lovable, but they don't want the baby in their life because they messed up, right? Who
Yep.
knows? People have weird lives. You can't say that. So in the case of the baby, it's ridiculous. But now when it comes to you and you're a little older, you're saying, well, how I am is determined by the opinions of others. Hell no. You don't want to be a slave to the opinions of others, do you?
No.
Yeah, there you go. So you the one who determines your own worth. You and only you. You and only you determine your own worth and your own value. And enjoy yourself. That comes from you and you alone. And the only way you can truly enjoy yourself is to have humility and confidence both at the same time. Coexisting contradiction, it might seem like, but it's not really. The two are totally dependent on each other. If you have too much humility, then you kind of all weak and feeble, and you downplay yourself, and you don't appreciate yourself, you don't acknowledge yourself. So too much humility, no good. Too much confidence, and you overvalue yourself, and you think you are more than what you actually are, and then it also gets you into trouble, and it's also no good, and also leads to all sorts of problems, right? So we have to have both at the same time. True confidence, capital C confidence, depends on having capital H humility. And capital H humility depends on having capital C confidence. They work together. They work together. Yes? Got to go together. Make sense, CJ?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, man. All right. So just know this, check your beliefs, right? You had this belief that, how you are is determined by, in this case, your mother's opinion. It's not. You are who you are. Whatever your mom believes or not believes, not going to make any difference, right? To how you actually are. None, none, right? So the fear was just an idea, no? An idea that turned out to be a square circle, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool. All right, so make a list of all the reasons why you're lovable, please.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And then you make another list of all the things that you've got to learn. But all right, that's a long list, but you can just start. And then the reason why you make out that other list is because the one has nothing to do with the other. Just because you have got a lot to learn doesn't make you any less lovable, right? Like a baby. Right, CJ?
Yes.
There you go. And who needs to love you? Anybody else or you? Who's the only one that really matters when it comes to loving you?
Me.
There you go. Thank you very much. And can you love yourself without being conceited?
Yes.
There you go. Humility, confidence put together. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. How cool is that, right? How cool is that? Now you got freedom. If you got freedom, you're not hung up, you're not dependent on others for your happiness. You the only one. That's it. You're free. You're free right now. You're free. Do you realize that, CJ? In that, yes, you just freed yourself by understanding that it's up to you. You're the one who chooses. You have the power to choose. It's not very hard either. It's kind of simple, really. But all you did was unhook from a belief that, hey, it's others that matter according to who I am, determining me, my happiness, my joy. The moment you unhook from that, you are free, Isn't that cool to be free?
Yes.
Life is actually very simple. We make it very complicated. This is very simple. Yeah. All right, man. All right. We'll see you again. Go write all that stuff out. You got a lot to do. It's fun to do this because it's power, CJ. It's power. It's power to do this. Understand it for being power. Yes. Real personal power. Yes. Not power over other people. That's bullying. That's nonsense. That's rubbish. Talking about personal power inside you. Personal power means freedom. Yes.
Yep.
All right. All right. We'll see you again. We'll see you again.
Today? Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. Very exciting. I mean, there's always more, but I don't want to share too much, because then you forget what the starting thing was, and the starting thing was very important. The brain can only take so much at a time, so
Yep.
to
Okay,
be
you got
getting
some questions
overloaded.
to start on,
Yeah,
and I have them all written down.
yeah, too cool.
So you finish up with your first one, okay?
I'm already done.
Huh?
I'm already done.
You're already done, huh? You
Wow,
thought that
brilliant.
through all the way? Okay, well then you got other questions. Your
Yeah,
day has just
keep
started.
going, keep going, just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, your other question, CJ, is, remember I asked you? Well, answer this one that Sil said. What would life be like with no rights?
Yeah,
You get to
yeah,
write it down. You're not just gonna verbalize it. No, you have to write
yeah.
this down.
Yeah. Please write it out. Yeah, it's very important, CJ, because when you just talk it goes very quickly. But when you write it down, you really have to think about it. And this is a very profound, deep philosophical question. It's a big, big, big question. It's a huge question. Very big deal.
So you need to go write the question down, please, and then get busy thinking
It's
about it
not
and
about,
writing it out.
there's no right or wrong answers. It's about the process.
Yep.
Being able to write it out means that you've really thought it through, that you have a command of this issue, that you can think it out, you can think it through, that you're developing the ability to have clarity. This is very powerful. This is very powerful.
Yeah.
So, these exercises aren't for you to come to some conclusion, some idea. No, it's to develop the ability to get there on your own, that you're not dependent on other people for answers of what's right and wrong and good and bad.
Yeah.
Right? Understanding is always much better than agree or disagree.
I just went through this,
right?
CJ.
Yeah.
I just really, really grasped and understood the idea that if I want resolution to any problem, anything, I need to understand the source.
Exactly. Understand it myself. Not agree or disagree with somebody else, because what do I really get when I disagree or agree? I agree with you. Have I learned anything? No, not necessarily. If I disagree, have I learned anything? No, not necessarily. Right? It doesn't get me any. But when I understand you, whether I agree or not, makes a difference. I've understood, and that understanding is power. Because when I understand, I can act, I can choose, I can act strategically, sensibly. So understanding is where it's all about. So all these exercises is about you developing the ability to come to understanding, capital U understanding of yourself. Right? That you don't have to take people's word for it. You're learning to think and figure it out for yourself. You're learning to perspective shift to multiple perspectives. You're learning to think it through to the end. This is power. This is real power, because you're developing the ability to come to understanding by yourself. You don't have to rely on other people. Freedom.
Yeah.
So these
This is how you're
exercises
gonna
are
take back your
incredibly
power.
powerful, but you have to want to do the exercises. If you don't want to do it, if you don't want freedom, if you don't want real personal power, then don't do them. But if you want it, then want to do these exercises. Do it because it's in your interest. It's valuable and useful to you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose he has that choice to just sleep all day, but nothing will be gained. And he still has 2 days of in-school suspension, which means not participating in class, but he has to sit in a room the whole 8 hours and do
Wow. Well,
nothing
that's
but
a good
whatever
opportunity
worksheet.
that's a good opportunity to write out all the stuff. Wow. What
Yeah,
a gift. What a gift. What a gift. Now look at what I just did, CJ. See, you might see that as punishment. I see it as a gift. You're getting 2 days of 8 hours where you've got other. Wow, what a chance to write all this stuff out, to really think it through. Man, 8 hours, 16 hours. This is an incredible gift. What a gift. What a gift. What a gift.
I would love to have 16 hours to write.
Exactly. What a gift. Again, life can suck or life can be a gift. It's up to us. Yeah, it's up to us how we choose to see it. We've been taught to see that things are sucky. It's just a belief. It's a square circle belief, right? Remember Tom Sawyer with the painting the fence?
Yeah.
How did he get the other kids to help him paint the fence? By
How
changing
did he do that?
belief, right? From painting the fence to see the painting the fence as a punishment, to see painting the fence as something fun and joyful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said through
And
persuasion.
now, here's the key question. Here's the key question for the Tom Sawyer, right, in that incident. Did those kids, the other kids, actually enjoy painting the fence? Yes, of course. They actually had fun doing it. They all had a blast, right? So our beliefs determine our reactions. Now, can we use beliefs positively or can we use them negatively? We can do both. It's up to us. So beliefs are a power. We need to use it appropriately. Like in this case, they shifted their beliefs. All right, they did, Tom Sawyer helped them shift their beliefs. But when their beliefs shifted, they went from seeing as a work and stress and to having fun. And same thing with the we used to call it detention, whatever, tomorrow. You can see it as sucky and punishment, or you can change your beliefs and see it as opportunity. It's up to you, CJ. You have the power. There is no actuality of what it is. Nobody can say it is this, it is that. What it is depends on you. No one else. That's the power. That's the freedom, that you're not subject. You're not at the mercy of other people's beliefs of how things should be, right? Like in the case of the kids, they could have stuck with their beliefs to see it as work, as punishment, or they could have that freedom because they were still kids. They had the freedom to shift. That's the thing that most adults lose, which I hope you never ever do. They get stuck in their beliefs and then they lost, right? You're a kid, you can change your beliefs. That's what part of being a kid is. Now, to me, I made this resolve. I said, I don't want to become an adult that gets stuck in beliefs. Never, never, never. I want to have that freedom to choose my own beliefs, to choose, to see how things work for me. That's it. This is a great power and a great magic. Yeah. Yeah. Learn to turn a disadvantage into an advantage. Strategy rule number 1. Yes. Without strategy, we're just sitting ducks. We're dead in the water without strategy. Like you saw today, right? You had no strategy. Your strategy sucked. The strategy was terrible. End result, not so good.
Yeah.
But there's a greater magic to your screw up. Doesn't matter. There's always a more. There's always more. Yeah. So now you're getting all of this value. You're going to have this opportunity. So you see, it all works out in the end. It's all for awareness. It all worked out. So no worries, man. No worries.
Okay.
Life is magical. Life is magical. Life is very, very magical. Brilliant, brilliant,
Alright.
brilliant, brilliant. All right. Sure. How about you? How are you? What are you choosing
I'm
to feel?
fine. Yeah, I'm good. I'll probably, I don't know, I'll probably just try and, I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. I was trying to take care of the rainwater coming in the back door, but
Oh, wow. Okay. I was asking, what are you choosing to feel? Not how are you feeling? What are you choosing to feel?
oh, okay. What am I choosing to feel? I'm choosing to feel neutral at this point. I was choosing, I deliberately chose earlier, to express my displeasure with him.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't ugly about it, but right there in front of the principal, it's just like, no, this is not acceptable. None of this is. Because we've been at this now for how long?
Yeah.
And after last week, at the end of the week, they wanted all the kids in the school to sign a letter of agreement that they understood that if they issue threats to other people, then there would be severe consequences.
That's very good. Yeah.
He refused to sign it.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, CJ refused to sign it?
he refused to sign it last week, and then he finally signed it today, as I understood. No?
No, I signed it the day that it was assigned.
Okay.
I asked to take a picture of it and send it to you because I didn't know if I sent it to the parents because it was really ridiculous because you do understand that if you threats, you will be arrested and then be gone away. You will be in deep trouble. You will be in very bad trouble, and then just went on and on.
Because they were trying to impress the point, CJ, of do you not remember how much calamity 2 emails cost? 2 emails. Do you remember? They called out police, they called out medical personnel, they called out counselors. I mean, they had everybody in 7 cities hopping.
Wow.
2 kids had
Wow.
7 cities
Yeah.
in uproar. This is why they wanted to stress to you guys that it was a very, very, very serious thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as making a terroristic threat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
why.
part of, okay, so strategic, right? Being a warrior, you got to learn to think like a general. Right. So part of a general's strategy, a good strategist, right? Really, you want to be a really masterful strategist. You have to learn to not only understand your own thinking, but that of others. Yes. Then you can apply the strategy. If you don't understand how they think, you're not going to go anywhere with your strategy. So part of looking at situations like this is, okay, I've got my opinion. And then you express, okay, this is my opinion. Now let me get into the head of the other people and let me understand their opinion from the inside. When you look at it from their point of view, it changes everything. Doesn't mean that they are necessarily right and sensible, but you understand it and then you can deal with it, right? Now, sometimes, like in the case of your teacher, she has to do things that aren't necessarily ideal for everyone involved, but the bigger picture determines and necessitates that, right? Because you've got the kind of a screw up in the first place, that kids were being kind of acting in ways that aren't ideal. So when you look at things from that other side, you get to understand things, really, really understand things. And you want to not just look at it from your side and the other side, but from all sides, the third side, the fourth side, the top side, the bottom side, also. It's an incredible power, because we can so easily believe our own ideas are sensible and make sense.
Yeah, that's that
not
victim
always the
believing
case.
that you were talking about last week. Instead of victim thinking, it's victim believing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Many things. Well, sometimes what we believe makes sense, but it makes sense within the bubble. It's sensible. Yes, it is sensible, but it's sensible inside a bubble. When you zoom out a little bit, not so much. Right? So that's the key, is to understand the bubbles. And when you start to look at things from other people's point of view, like in this case, from the teachers, or, with that signing the thing, from the school board, from the bigger system, and, the police and the FBI and everybody. Okay, it's a little different from that. Could it be better? Of course, things can always be better. But does it make sense? Yeah, kind of. Okay. So when you look at the overall situation, it changes the position. Right? We can easily get stuck in believing our beliefs are the only belief that makes sense. It's a big trap. It's a big trap. They may make sense, yes, but they make sense within a bubble. So they do make sense, but they only make sense within a bubble. So when you start to look at, you see beyond your own bubble. Right? And that's where the problem lies, that what you are thinking does make sense, but within your bubble only.
Yeah.
Very powerful, very powerful, very powerful.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, when we try to insist that the world work according to our own logic, that's when we run into trouble. The world works according to its own logic, not ours. We can't make the world work according to our sensibility.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because you're the second person that's told him that this morning. The principal told him that as well. That things don't exactly work out the way we,
Although
believe.
I wasn't really telling it to him, I was just sharing it as an observation that came up in myself.
Well, no, she had let him know. She's like, the world doesn't work this way.
I'm just sharing it.
Okay. Well, his attention is gone.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You have to be cognizant of the energy too. That's why I said, let it be now. Have him go do it on his own. You go and do something else. Otherwise, it's too much. We get overloaded, and then all the value that we've acquired just goes away.
Yep. Exactly.
Energy management, always number one. Always.
Yes, it is. Okay. Well, thanks for listening in and sharing. I appreciate it.
So I'll send you this recording, and if CJ wants to go over this again, make it available to him.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Yeah. Be cool, CJ. Be cool, man. Be cool.
I will. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hold on. Bye, Dina.
Bye for now, Sher.
Bye for now.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask anything to add.